Hello and welcome to It's Not Over with Dr. Dan Farrell. Unfortunately, Dr. Farrell is not with us. He is out of the country. He is over in the island of the Philippines, and he is preaching, heralding the gospel, and he is wearing his body out. I heard not that long ago that he actually preached 8 times in one day. Eight different preaching messages. That's
only
it.
8?
I mean, only 8 times. So, Lord willing, he'll be back soon, maybe a few weeks. And so, it's good to be here. We're excited. This is Brother Josh, and obviously our audience is familiar with him. He'll be preaching today. Brother, how are you?
Doing great. Well, I wanted to talk about something today that's I'd like to think is relevant to the times, and plus, also, Pastor asked us to kind of go over this topic, so we're going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. 1, keep the pastor happy, because that's always important, and then number right. 2, talk about something important. And so, one of the things that I think that is on a lot of people's minds, especially in America right now, is the elections, with the upcoming presidential race, and there's a lot of talk about the millennials. The millennial generation. And I don't know what you know about the millennial generation, Jordan, if you're familiar with it.
Is that the 40s, 50s, something like that, age group?
No, actually the millennials are, generally they're considered people who were born between the year 1981 and the year 2000. And so I was born in 1981.
That's my group.
And so so basically people in their 30s and their 20s are about the millennials. And I was looking up some statistics. It says that there's roughly 77 million millennials, people in that age group, who live in America right now. And so what they've done is they've taken over as, or they will be taking over very soon, as the largest generation pool of people in the country. And so basically, it's getting to the point where this generation of millennials is going to set the tone for the country in years to come. And so
that's scary.
Yeah, it's very
I don't have much confidence in our generation.
Well, there's cause for concern, but there's also cause for hope. And so that's kind of some of the stuff that we want to talk about. And so one of the things that is interesting, I found this just online really quickly. This is an article out of Texas A&M University. It says that there are 6 living generations in America right now. And they name them the GI generation, the mature or the silents, which I've never even heard of before, the baby boomers, which I don't know if you've heard a lot about the baby boomers. They always talk about the baby boomers spend a bunch of money. Generation X, Generation Y, which is actually the millennials. I don't know why they changed it, but and then there's another one which is Generation Z, or the boomlets, which is basically anybody born after 2001. And some of these dates are, subject to move. And obviously, this is just kind of a broad, sweeping generalization. It doesn't mean anything. But there's some interesting things that I saw here going through. In this article, it kind of talks about what people in certain generations, kind of what their character was like.
Okay.
What the people who were the GI generation, like they were the children of the World War I generation fighters, and so they went through the Great Depression usually, and World War II, and they're commonly known as like the greatest generation or something like that. But here's a couple of things that I found interesting, just from morality, is marriage. This is their idea of marriage. Marriage is for life. Divorce and having children out of wedlock were not accepted. So these are people born between 1901 and 1926. That's what this article says. And they avoided debt. They didn't worry about retirement. You worked until you died, and very community-minded. So then after that was the mature or the silent generation, and these are the people who were born between 1927 and 1945.
Probably most of our grandparents.
Maybe.
Are great.
So I don't even know. Like, I couldn't even tell you when my grandparents were born off the top of my head. So I know my parents. My parents were born, I think my dad was born in 57 and my mom in 60. So that would put them in the baby boomers.
My parents were as well.
Okay, so they would be baby boomers.
My parents were right on the tail end of the baby boomers.
And then, now your grandfather fought in World War II, right?
Both of them did, yes.
Yeah, on both sides. So anyway, after that, there's the mature, the silence, and just one of the things about them is, again, marriage is for life. Divorce and having children out of wedlock was not accepted. By the time you get to the baby boomers, This is again, which would be our parents' generation. This was considered the rock and roll music generation, and you've got the the hippies and stuff like that. They start kind of coming into play. And let's see, I think it comments on what their ideas of marriage were. Oh, and the baby boomers were the first to begin accepting homosexuals. And they were the first divorce generation where divorce was beginning to be accepted and a tolerable reality. And there's something that's really interesting about that goes hand in hand with the baby boomers, is it's the first generation with TV. That's just interesting, and again, it was one of the largest generations in history. No
coincidence there.
Yeah, no coincidence. And so then so this goes up to about 1964. Of course, if you know, in 1963, what happened in 1963 was there was that famous Supreme Court ruling. I think it was 1963, 1964, back to back, where they basically they stopped prayer in public schools, and they stopped allowing the Bible in the public schools. And so then what we see out of that, the aftermath of that, in Generation X, which was the generation right after the baby boomers, they start, AIDS begins to spread and becomes the first lethal infectious disease in the history of any culture on Earth, which was not subjected to any quarantine. And I'm looking for their ideas on marriage, and I'm not seeing it. Okay, they were late to marry after cohabitation, and quick to divorce. Many single parents. And so then we get down to the generation that we really want to focus on, the Y generation. Well, it's not. No one calls it the Y generation. I don't know why that's in here. It's the Millennials. The Millennials. That's what they're called, the Millennials. And so some of the things that characterize Millennials, which is really interesting, is that they it says they respect authority, and that crime rates fall in this generation, and teen pregnancy rates fall during this generation. However, let's see. I don't see what it says on marriage. Okay. Well, I don't know what their idea was on marriage, which I was hoping for a thing. And then, of course, you've got the next generation, which is all the teenagers and stuff like that, and who knows what's going to happen with them. But that's just some pretty interesting stuff there. So another thing that was interesting in this article from me reading through it was that you see a change, also a huge change in society, and what it was is mom went to work. And when mom went to work, it ended up basically kneecapping an entire generation. And so we see here, I think it was the baby boomers, where we started to see more women in work. Yeah, because the matures and the silents, the people between 1927 and 1945, this was before feminism really hit the scene, and women stayed at home and generally raised the children. If they worked, they only worked certain jobs. But in the baby boomers, that's when women would really start to get out and start to work, and the kids were the next generation. There was the Generation X. These were known as latchkey kids. And so what that term came from is latchkey kids grew up street smart but isolated, often with divorced or career-driven parents. And latchkey came from the house key kids wore around their neck, so that so they'd have the house key, and so they'd get out of school and then they'd go home. No one would be home, so they had to have a key to get into the house because mom and dad were both at work. And it talks
or if there even was a dad.
Yeah, if there even was a dad. And so it talks extensively kind of about the Generation X, how it really handicapped that generation, but for whatever reason, the millennials were not as affected. I guess people kind of saw what happened with that, and so more millennials had, it goes on to say that they're nurtured by omnipresent parents, and they're optimistic and focused. And so, in my personal experience, not that it matters much, my mom did stay home, and she didn't go to work. And we were even homeschooled with a Christian education, stuff like that. I don't know about you.
My mom did stay home. I was homeschooled for a time, and when I went to school, a large portion of my schooling, my mom and my dad were part of my teachers, and then I was brought up in a private school, Christian school.
And so then we've got some more statistics here about the millennials. So here's an interesting little comment. This is from just marketing information. There are companies out there who are always putting together all this information on stuff, and they're trying to figure out how do you sell stuff to people, right? And it says here that the millennial generation is larger than the baby boom generation and 3 times the size of Generation X. If you remember, Generation X was kind of that generation that fell through the cracks, that that had, I guess, mommy issues or daddy issues. I don't know. So anyway, they say that it's 3 times the size of Generation X. And Rich Ferguson, the vice president of knowledge development in EMEA, a provider of loyalty programs, says across the globe, the baby boom generation is retiring. And as such, it's critically important for marketers to understand how millennial attitudes towards technology, data privacy, and rewards will change the way brands build strong, profitable relationships with their best customers. So basically, they're just saying, well, we need to get inside their heads. And that's cool. But here's the thing that's interesting about the millennials. From other study that I've done, I don't necessarily have anything in this information, is it seems like generations run on about a 4-generation cycle. You'll have a generation that is like the GI generation, where some crisis happens, like the Great Depression, followed by World War II, and they step up to the task. Mm-hmm. And when you think about it, the generation that was around, like your grandfather, they saved the world and then built a nation. And they did. I mean, it's history. It's what happened in America. And then what happens is their children are a little more complacent, and then the children of them are even more complacent. And then finally, by the time you get to about the 4th generation, they start to realize things aren't going right, and crisis starts to come in again. And so a lot of people are thinking that the millennial generation here in America, they are really at this turning point of they could either blow it, really blow it right. Bad, or they're going to have to step up like your grandfather did, and stuff. And so, I don't want to say that previous generations have blown it, but I mean, we've got stuff like through the 1960s, we've got prayer kicked out of school, Bible kicked out of school. We had 1973. We have abortion passed. We have and then now recently, 2015. Now we've had gay marriage passed, right? And so it's just been in our country. It's been a steady decline. Now we have 60 million murdered babies in our country from 1963 to today, and we have to ask ourselves, what were people doing? What was going on? And so tomorrow, or next show, what I want to talk about is I want to kind of roll into a little bit about feminism, because I think that has a big impact. And I think what it is there was a lot of people who were hurting. There's a lot of hurting people, and we can see from the generations kind of how this came to be. And so that's what we're going to go with tomorrow. So Jordan.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in, and it's been an intriguing discussion today. I'm excited. I can't wait till tomorrow. Brother Josh has really brought forth some great information, especially, right, it's a little more intriguing to me because I'm a millennial. And so if you're listening, I hope that you will please spread the word along about It's Not Over. Please go to our Facebook page and like that, and get down there and watch the videos. Share the videos on Facebook if you've really enjoyed them. Go to YouTube, if you could, the YouTube channel, It's Not Over, and please subscribe to our channel. That would be a huge blessing to us. It would be very encouraging. And if God so blesses you and encourages you to do so, we ask you to visit our umbrella website, which is morningstarnetwork.org. Go there, and if you have the means and the income God's placed on your heart, please donate to our cause here so that we can go and continue to spread the word, and maybe even raise our audience to get the word out there a little more. All right, thank you so much, Brother Josh. Going to close here with a couple words.
Now, Jesus in Luke chapter 11, verse 31, he said, "The Queen of the South shall rise up in the judgment with the men of this generation and condemn them. For she came from the utmost parts of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and behold, a greater than Solomon is here." And when you think about generations, that generation of the Jews that were around when Jesus Christ was there, man, they blew it. They had the chance, they had their king, they had their Messiah, they had the promise of their kingdom, however you want to. Of course, we know everything's in the sovereignty of God, but they blew it. And so I wonder if the millennials are going to follow suit of that, or if they're going to step up to the task.